happy rainy day. We can make it a great day with some shoes. How about feeling second semester? Feeling like it's kind of know what you're doing compared to last semester, not stressful?
No, it's worse. It's different.
Is it more reading?
No. Yes.
No, it's a read. The read is getting bloody night.
Oh, what does it do?
March 1st today.
That's not next March 4th?
Oh.
That's no offense. It's like 3 weeks. You guys are freaking out on March 4th?
Yes.
Wow. I'm thinking it's like next week. It's a lot of time. How long does it have to be?
10 pages?
Oh my gosh, are you seriously 10 pages and you have like 3, you could write a page a day?
Or 14,000 words.
It's
14,000.
14,000. Whose class do y'all have?
I'm 1,400. No.
I didn't fill out 14,000.
14,000.
Can someone raise their hand and help me remember what it's like to be a student? Why is it stressful and does not need to take in March?
Because we had a snow day.
Yeah.
Oh, that's 10:30. Yeah. Okay, so that's not that I can relate
There's
to.
pieces of it due like every week.
Oh, okay, I like that. So they're breaking it up instead of letting you wait till the last minute to write it all.
Jesus is weeping.
All right, that's what we're. So what's the next section do?
Today.
For some people.
So basically, you have another section due this week. You have to go to every class. Okay. Well, that's a good thing. We have a totally easy class today, then, right?
Also, some professors are worse than others on teaching you how to do it. Like, so you're
That's
doing it
a
on
good
your
year,
own.
though. This is a preference of style. You can how they teach you. All right, let's jump in.
And we had to watch it 3 hours.
Take a deep breath. The good thing is the way I look at it is the target date I'm looking for is February 18th. Because in my mind, then the next target date is March 18th, and then it's April 18th, which is the last day of classes. So I feel like February 18th is next week, right? Winning. So I'm excited. And then you can get the exams over. It's derby time. You got the whole summer. So like when we reach that halfway point, then I'm like super excited. That's just me. All right. So today's class is pretty straightforward. We're just talking about the long arm statutes that I've been casually mentioning and promising you that we'll spend the class on covering them. So during the first week of class, I pointed out that a court may exercise jurisdiction over a non-resident defendant only when the state or federal government authorizes that court to do so. In the personal jurisdiction context, as well as subject matter jurisdiction, which we haven't covered that yet, you need both constitutional and statutory authority. So just as a friendly reminder, personal jurisdiction, we're trying to determine whether the court has jurisdiction over a defendant, over a person. Subject matter jurisdiction, we're trying to, which we will cover, but it's just determining whether the federal court has the authority to listen to that type of case, right? What type of case is it? Is it a patent law case? Is it a divorce case? Okay, so that's subject matter jurisdiction. So basically, in every case that we do, that you file, you're going to have to do both a statutory and a constitutional analysis. And so the statutory analysis just means you have to see if the relevant long-arm statute applies, and that's what we're doing today. If indeed that long-arm statute applies, your second step is to do a constitutional analysis. That means you're trying to determine whether or not bringing that defendant, forcing that defendant to come to the state of Kentucky to defend themselves, purports with the due process clause of the Constitution. So essentially what that means with that second step, that constitutional analysis, is what we spend the whole semester doing. So you're trying to determine if there's specific jurisdiction, if there's general jurisdiction, if there's quasi-in-rem jurisdiction, if there's in-rem jurisdiction. So again, the first step you do, which we're focusing on today in this two-step analysis, and you're trying to determine, can I file this case in the state of Ohio, and can I make a Kentucky resident come to Ohio and defend themselves? Well, first let me look at the Ohio long-arm statute and see if that applies, okay? If it does, yay, then we're going to do the constitutional analysis, which is what I just mentioned. So there's two types of long-arm statutes. There's a super broad long-arm statute, which is, we call it the California style, and then there's a more narrow long-arm statute, which is modeled after the state of Illinois. And so, unfortunately for us, Kentucky has the narrow long-arm statute, right? And so, essentially the way that it works, I pulled up the California statute, long-arm statute, so you can see it. And I don't know how to make it bigger. Let's see. See, on my Apple, you just do like this. I don't know how to make it bigger, but this is a PDF. But the long-arm statute for California essentially says a court of the state may exercise jurisdiction on any basis not inconsistent with the Constitution of the state or the United States. And I just Googled it, so it's nothing that you have to, if you can't see the writing, you just Google California long-arm statute. And so as attorneys, we love this California long-arm statute because all it's saying is, you know what, if you don't even need to do the first step. The state of California says the constitutional analysis is good enough for us. If it's good enough for the Constitution, and it's fair, then you can bring that defendant here to defend themselves. And so if you see a short, it's always going to say that it's literally just one sentence. If you see a short long-arm statute like this, that's great. It means you just skip to the second step and you do your constitutional analysis. So it means you don't have to do both analysis. So we like these types of California long-arm statutes. The rest of them, the narrow ones, I pulled up Kentucky for you so you can see it. And they make you do that first step, right? And so Kentucky, for instance, a court may exercise personal jurisdiction over a person who acts directly or by an agent as to a claim arising from the person transacting business here in Kentucky, contracting to supply services or goods, causing a tortious injury. And it goes on, it lists contracting to insure any person, property, or risk located within this commonwealth. So essentially, you would look up each one, whatever state you're trying to file your suit in, their long-arm statute, and seeing, oh, well, my case is dealing with the tort, and the tort was committed in the state of Kentucky, so the long-arm statute applies. And so when you file your initial pleading, which we'll get to later in the semester with the court, there's going to be a section on there for subject matter jurisdiction in your pleading. That's the very first document you file to start a case, and there'll be a section on personal jurisdiction. So in that pleading, you're going to say, under the personal jurisdiction section, and I'll show you samples, you're going to say, the state of Kentucky has jurisdiction to hear this case because, and you would say, pursuant to Kentucky long-arm statute section 454-210, the state may assert jurisdiction over an individual who commits a tortious act within the state of Kentucky. This act was committed, this was a tort, it was, battery committed in Jeffersontown, Kentucky on May 2nd, 2019, blah, blah, blah. And then you'll say it also purports with the Constitution for Kentucky to have jurisdiction over this case because the defendant has minimum contacts with the state of Kentucky. And you'll list what those contacts are and say, therefore, there's specific jurisdiction. So the judge is going to look at your pleading and say, yeah, I think, that looks right, so I'm going to go ahead and allow this case to move forward. So when you get that pleading, you file it in the court, then you serve a copy of that, serves a process to the defendant. Hey, buddy, I just filed a lawsuit against you, you have to come to Kentucky to defend yourself. The defendant then has the option of saying, that's crap, I'm not coming to Kentucky to defend myself. Kentucky doesn't have personal jurisdiction over me. And so they can file a motion to dismiss the case for lack of personal jurisdiction. And basically, they would write a response to their attorney that says, I don't have minimum contacts with Kentucky, this is why. I'm a resident of Ohio. I conduct 90% of my business in Ohio. So you're going to make that argument, the judge is going to look at both pleadings that have been filed and make a decision if he's going to allow the case to move forward or if he's going to dismiss it. You see how it works? Pretty cool. I like it. And so that's Kentucky. Indiana, I picked the ones that were close to us. Same thing. Typically, you'll see doing business in the state, injury in the state, purchasing supplies within the state, they own any property within the state, And like for instance, the section here 5 says owning, using, or possessing any real property within the state. It's kind of like doing the same thing twice because you would do the statutory analysis and say, Your Honor, Kentucky statute is applicable here because Kathy Smith owns a home at 5672 Daniel Street, Louisville, Kentucky, and therefore she, the Kentucky long-arm statute applies. Then when you do your constitutional analysis, you're going to use the obvious in rem, but you're going to use in rem if the dispute is about that property. If it's not about that property, then you're going to start making the argument about the amount of contacts they have. Hopefully you can make an argument that there's either specific or general jurisdiction based on context. Does anybody not understand where I'm going with this? Questions? Okay, and then the last one I wanted to show you, I think California, Kentucky, Illinois, I think that's it. Indiana. Okay, cool. So, those are the long-arm statutes. So there is, I forgot to bring my book and I thought I brought it with me, but if you were to Google, there's remember I told you we're going to talk about rules for. So rule 4K2, again, I'm not going to ask you on the exam what rule it is, I'm just telling you where you can go and look for the answer. So rule 4K2 is generally referred to as the federal long-arm statute, right? So those statutes that I have behind me are state long-arm statute, and you use that as a gateway to try to file a case in state or federal court. But sometimes there's these rare occasions where where a defendant are not subject to jurisdiction in any state. Very, very rare. And it mostly applies to foreign people or entities, meaning people that are in another country, who have insufficient contacts to establish jurisdiction in one of the 50 states. And so it's typically relevant for international cases, but I want you to know if you happen to do some aspect of international law, there is a federal long-arm statute that allows you to bring that international defendant here to defend themselves. If they refuse to come, that's a whole other class where, as you know, when they step foot in the U.S. and they swipe their passport, if there's any types of court orders on that passport, they're going to be detained quickly. So I just want to make sure you knew for, again, international defendants, there is another way of bringing them here to defend themselves, and again, that's going to be Federal Rule 4K as in Kelly 2. All right, so let's talk about this Gibbons case. Gibbons. So I think I left it up here in case somebody was excited to go straight into it, but I can do the same thing. So I can't find the form that I used to check off people's name I called, so I try not to call the same people. So here goes. I already called Jessica. So today, let's go with Attorney Lamb. I know I haven't called you for our go. Yay, you got an easy day. Lamb and Attorney. Did I call you? Yeah, Attorney John again? Yes, you felt like I did. Attorney Gross. Yay. All right, cool. Let's keep it moving. So we've got Gross and Lamb. That's easy. All right. Can either of you give me the facts, please? You're both on that side.
So, Mr. and Ms. Gibbons are both Florida residents. They're driving in Montreal, Canada, with Mr. and Ms. Brown.
Okay.
They're driving in Montreal, Canada with Ms. Gibbons in the vehicle. Ms. Gibbons is giving directions, and Ms. Gibbons wrongly instructs Mr. Brown where to turn. He turns down the one-way, the wrong direction. They're in a motor vehicle accident, and then shortly after, I guess in 1995, Ms. Gibbons sues Mr. Brown for the injuries that she's.
Excellent job. High five. All right, so this is kind of a fun case to me, right? So I can see the scenario happening. You're driving, you got a married couple, their friend, everybody knows the best way, someone's trying to give directions, and you have to go down a one-way street, and there's a horrific crash, right? So a head-on collision, to my understanding. So as Attorney Lamb stated, the first lawsuit in 1995 was filed by Mr. Gibson, right? Ms. Gibson, she's a Texas resident. She sues Mr. Brown in Florida State Court, alleging that his negligent driving caused the accident. His wife was not a party in the suit, and so you don't think this is weird? I think it's kind of weird. Like, why didn't the married couple file a lawsuit at the same time? And it just seems kind of weird to me. So then there's a second lawsuit, Attorney Gross. What was that one about?
This is Miss Brown, the wife, suing Gibbons, who was doing directions for her negligence, I guess, and to get money for her injuries.
Right, okay, so now the wife is saying, actually it's Ms. Gibbons' fault. She's the one that told him to turn down that one-way street, and so she should be responsible for the accident, and I think she should pay for my injuries. And so what's going on in this case, we basically just have an appeal, right, by Gibbons, the trial court's denial of their motion to dismiss based on service and jurisdiction. So can you tell me, Attorney Lamb, do you mind reading the applicable Florida long-arm statute on page 177?
Sure. A defendant who is engaged in substantial and not isolated activity within the state, whether such activity is wholly interstate, or otherwise, is subject to the jurisdiction of the courts of the state, whether or not the claim arises from that activity.
Excellent. So in addition to the Florida long-arm statute, the parties were also arguing over a really important legal principle that was related to this issue of consent to personal jurisdiction. What is the principle they're arguing over? Anybody remember? Either of you, doesn't matter.
Are you talking to minimum context?
Yes.
Yes, minimum context.
Sorry, that was funny. Yes, anything else, Attorney Gross? Do you remember what we talked about in the last class with the Carnival case? You remember. The Carnival cruise where people were getting screwed over because of the clause.
That's foreign selection.
Yeah, you remember, foreign selection clause. And so the court in that case said that by buying that ticket, essentially they were consenting to jurisdiction based on that clause. Don't you remember?
They were just saying that because Ms. Gibbons had the other suit in Florida, that they could bring suit now.
Excellent. Yes. Okay. So, as a general rule in Florida, a plaintiff by bringing actions subjects herself to the jurisdiction of the court and to subsequent actions, meaning legal actions they may bring regarding the same subject matter. So, essentially, they're trying to say that since she had brought that previous action where she consented to jurisdiction, that she should therefore still be under Florida's reach in terms of consenting to jurisdiction. So, if your counsel, Attorney Lamb, for Mrs. Brown, the plaintiff, what's your argument as to why there should be personal jurisdiction?
I want to say that by bringing the 1995 case, she had already subjected herself because she was there as a citizen in action.
Excellent. What did you say earlier as well about minimum contacts?
The second part of their analysis was that she's got to show minimum sufficient contacts to satisfy due process.
Great argument, Attorney Lamb. You're on a roll. All right. So, as you stated, if your counsel for Mrs. Brown, you're going to say, look, Your Honor, there has to be personal jurisdiction here. Because she brought that lawsuit in 1995, she's already consented to Florida jurisdiction related to this lawsuit. And so the second argument that you're going to make is under the Florida long-arm statute, Gibbons has substantial activities, i.e. minimum contacts with the state. Meaning the prior lawsuit is evidence that Gibbons has substantial activity with the state. She's in the state defending herself. She's litigating this lawsuit. So, you need to allow personal jurisdiction here. But Attorney Gross, it's like your names are too easy, so it's like harder for me. What's your response to him? Why should there be no personal jurisdiction?
It says that Ms. Brown was not a party in the original action, and then several years separated the two proceedings.
Excellent. Do you remember how many years separated the two? Great job.
I think. No, I don't remember.
2 years.
2 years. All right, got excellent co-counsel here. All right, so the general principle is that the plaintiff consents to jurisdiction, right, for counterclaims filed by defendants in a suit. So we haven't covered counterclaims yet, but if someone files a suit against you and you respond with a counterclaim, he's suing me for breach of contract, well, I'm suing him for negligence. If you respond in a counterclaim, which again we'll spend a whole class on this, then you're in a sense you're considered to have consented to jurisdiction by responding to that claim. There are other ways that you can reject jurisdiction, and if you don't win, then you can file your counterclaim. But if you don't try to oppose jurisdiction and file a counterclaim, the court says, oh well, you obviously want to defend yourself here. You filed a claim here as well, so you consented to jurisdiction. So this first lawsuit arose from the same accident, right, as we know, as Mrs. Brown's instant suit. But as Attorney Gross highlighted, Mrs. Brown was not a party, right, to the first suit involving Mr. Brown. Here, the court points out that her first lawsuit was brought in 1995, while Mrs. Brown's suit was brought in 1997, 2 years later. So the first lawsuit was brought by Ms. Gibbons 2 years earlier. Does not constitute, the argument Attorney Gross is making, enough activities to satisfy the requirements of Florida's long-arm statute. If that's her only contact with Florida, it's not substantial enough. So Attorney Gross is saying, hey, my client doesn't have enough contact with the state of Florida. She wasn't even involved in the first lawsuit, and it was 2 years later. The other attorney saying, no, she's already consented to jurisdiction. She's got contacts with the state of Florida because of a prior lawsuit. Personal jurisdiction is fair here. So what is the two-pronged showing, Attorney Lamb, that the court stated must be satisfied prior to the exercise of personal jurisdiction over non-resident defendant?
To allege sufficient jurisdictional facts relating to defendant within coverage of the long-arm statute and to show sufficient minimum context to satisfy the process.
Excellent. All right, so the court points out that Florida's long-arm statute, right, requires more activities or context to allow service of process, meaning personal jurisdiction. So they actually have a higher standard for the long-arm statute than what's required by the U.S. Supreme Court. So basically, the Florida statute doesn't extend as far as the international shoe test would permit. And so we know here that the court dismisses Mrs. Brown's claim, or complaint rather, and rules for no personal jurisdiction, which I'm kind of like on the fence about. So even if we assume, technically without deciding, that bringing an action in a Florida court can constitute a substantial and not isolated activity, I think what bothers me is that Mrs. Brown has not shown that Ms. Gibbons is engaged, right, in any activity in the state whatsoever other than defending a present suit. So this is an important case because think about the implications here. If defending a lawsuit, so if I have to come to Ohio to defend myself for a lawsuit, can someone then use that lawsuit against me for another litigation claim and say that I have sufficient contacts with Ohio because I came there to litigate that suit? Like that has some pretty strong implications if you think about it. If you look at the last paragraph on page 177, I'm going to read a direct quote. It says a current defendant's prior decision to bring a suit in Florida should not indefinitely hang on the head of that defendant if she later challenges jurisdiction in a separate suit. Here the court is telling us that filing a suit 2 years ago is not enough to satisfy the long-arm statute's requirements of substantial context. That's essentially what they're telling us. Do you agree or disagree with that, Attorney Gross or Lamb? Do you think that should be enough to establish enough context that prior suit to meet the long-arm statute requirements?
I think it's questionable. I can kind of see both sides, but I don't know. I think that would be kind of a stretch.
Do you agree or disagree, Attorney?
Right, yeah, I think there's a good argument to say that if the subject matter is the same, they're kind of closer in the same boat, but definitely it's a situation.
Would you have changed your mind if it wasn't a 2-year gap? Maybe if it was a closer proximity between the first and second lawsuit?
Yeah, I think especially if it was just a matter of a couple months or a few weeks and it kind of was just a quick cross-claim, then definitely so.
Do you plan on doing litigation?
I'm not exactly sure at this point.
All right, you guys are doing fabulous. You're great litigators. I almost want to get you to tee up and argue one another before. All right, so essentially what the court said is given the length of time between the two actions and the fact again that prior suit named as a defendant a non-party, that's a real important key. Essentially the court concluded, as we know, that Mrs. Brown has not alleged a satisfactory ground for personal jurisdiction pursuant to again that long-arm statute. That was that case in a nutshell. So it's important. That's why long-arm statute stuff is so easy. I love it. So Gibbons' case was basically to assign to you just to highlight that again there are two-part analysis to any personal jurisdiction inquiry that you're doing. Again, first you're going to look at the long-arm statute analysis, which is also called the statutory analysis, and again you're looking at whether or not the long-arm statute applies. And then second, again, you're going to do that constitutional analysis. Is there general jurisdiction? Is there specific jurisdiction? And you're looking at the types of contacts that non-resident defendant has with the state to determine whether there is sufficient context to satisfy any of those different pathways to establishing personal jurisdiction. So you remember the Burnham case, right? The tag jurisdiction, tag your it. Goodyear and Daimler talking about substantial contacts. See, it's all fitting together. Obviously, international shoe, minimum contact. So that's why we did all that. So you would know how to do this analysis. So like literally right now, what's the date? February 11th, 9:29 a.m. Remember this date. You officially know what you need to know to file your first lawsuit. How cool is that? Now your case, I can file, I can't like technical pro bono. Yes, I mean, I always say that. Pro se. I can file a case, I may not know the rest of the process, but you can at least file, you can file your case, which is pretty awesome. All right, so that would be the Kentucky long-arm statute. So any questions about this particular case or how that works? Yes.
I just had a general question.
Okay.
So for the exam, would you say, like, state by state in Indiana or in Florida, if we're in that state or this state, which rule applies? Like,
Are you serious?
what?
Are you seriously asking that question? Elizabeth?
Yes.
I'm offended. Like, what professor would expect you to know? You know how many long-arm statutes? That's outrageous. No,
That's what I'm asking.
that's like crazy. No, and the reason I would do that is because it's crazy. Like, attorneys don't know all those states. You don't need to know that for the bar. Because all you're going to do is when you get ready to file a case, even if it's a client, they're trying to bring someone to Kentucky from Nevada, you're going to Google Nevada's long-arm statute. So there's too many subparts. That would just be literally trying to make sure everybody fails. And it's too much information for you to consume. So for exam purposes, I would give you the long-arm statute with the fact pattern and ask you if it applies. Yes or no. It's not really that. It's pretty straightforward. I'm offended you asked me that. Wow. Do I come across as I hide the ball? No. Jeez. All right. So we're going to do something we rarely do and take a 5-minute break. I know, you're shocked. It's nothing wrong, but 5 minutes.
I'm gonna fall off this chair.
What did you say?
I'm gonna go fall off this chair.
Okay.
I'm so tired.
Oh, you're still from turning your step?
Yes.
Oh, just drink coffee that I can't drink.
I can drink coffee.
No, you're like me. Oh, yeah. So I'll tell you a story back here. I'm running upstairs. I'll be right back. So is this Walmart?
No, it wasn't.
What if she did? Yeah, so you're right. So it's going to go search process.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll have all the questions.
I just want to make sure I'm organized.
You're totally right.
I guess I'm just gonna do my hair. Oh no, I just literally do it up there and put a scarf on top because I can't put. So I was gonna braid it down. If I put a bunch of products in my hair, it's not gonna do nothing. It's not gonna get the color. My hair like sets. So when I get home and take it down, it's gonna be soft up there. It doesn't just stay wherever it's put.
I'm tired of girls sitting here trying to.
She's talking about 5 minutes. Let's get this over with.
Right.
I was already weaning. I do that sometimes. I just start weaning. I'm like, wait a minute, where are you going? It's gonna be she was definitely going on. You can get it. Oh, I thought this was hilarious. I'm like, I need new faces. But I definitely need new faces.
It took a second. I was like, no, they ain't.
He's like, woo!
No, there was one that said, dude was like, oh, baby, and the girl was like, I'm gonna take it right out. Like, damn.
I don't have time to do all of it. I'm not even doing it. I wrote quite a bit though.
Professor McNeil, that wasn't nothing against you. We went through some trauma. We did some things, okay? I'm just trying to be ready, all right?
Mine's just like going on these pages. He's a drab, so like, he looks back.
The book did not help, nor did the outline. I didn't use either of
Well,
them.
normally we do open book, we make it harder.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish our last case. So we like this case. Why do we love this case?
Because it's yours.
We love this case because it's a real case, like pretty. It's right off Westlaw. It's like what you would look up as an attorney. We like this case.
Oh, yes, I see attachment in the I never got an attachment for the case.
Really? Like when you look at who was not able to see this on Blackboard? Just go this one.
Yes.
Because when I was on that, it wasn't there. Freaked me out. All right, so Walker case. Here we go. We like this case. It's a long arm statute case. On the facts, Attorney Gross. Thank you.
The insurance brought suit against a health insurer and a non-resident company that reviewed the health insurance claims for the insurer after the claims for medical expenses were denied.
Yeah, so the facts are kind of weird in this case. So I'm like, first of all, why was another company reviewing their claims, meaning World Insurance Company? Why was Encompass even reviewing their claims? Like, it doesn't really tell us. I hate that because I'm like, I don't feel like I have a good grasp on the facts. Like, why were they like subcontracted by World Company Insurance to help because maybe their claims got backed up? I don't know. But we know that the plaintiff is ticked off because they submitted medical claims to World Insurance Company. It was denied, and they're mad at Encompass as well because they were involved in a decision that denied at least one of the claims under the policy. So, Attorney Lamb, what two charges were filed by the plaintiff against the defendant?
After the claims for medical expenses were denied.
Yeah, so the facts are kind of weird in this case. So I'm like, first of all, why was another company reviewing their claims, meaning World Insurance Company? Why was Encompass even reviewing their claims? Like, it doesn't really tell us. I hate that because I'm like, I don't feel like I have a good grasp on the facts. Like, were they like subcontracted by World Company Insurance to help because maybe their claims got backed up? I don't know. But we know the plaintiff is ticked off because they submitted medical claims to World Insurance Company. It was denied, and they're mad at Encompass as well because they were involved in a decision that denied at least one of the claims under the policy. So, Attorney Lamb, what two charges were filed by the plaintiff against the defendant?
The first count was bad faith and insurance benefits, a breach of contract, and the second count was a mutual infliction of emotional distress.
Excellent. Attorney Gross, what was the defendant Encompass's response to the plaintiff's claims? What kind of motion did they file?
Motion to dismiss for the lack of personal jurisdiction.
Excellent. Under the Mississippi long arm statute, right? Say yes. Okay. All right. So I'm like, we're doing so great. Say yes. All right. So this is a normal case. You have situations where the defendant again is challenging whether or not this state of Mississippi has the authority to have jurisdiction over them to make them come and defend themselves. So can one of you read the Mississippi long arm statute? What does it require? I mean, what are the three prongs that it requires in order for Mississippi to be able to assert jurisdiction over you? If you just tell me the three prongs, that's fine.
The three prongs are the contract prong, the tort prong, and the doing business prong.
Excellent. Okay. What are the two ways personal jurisdiction is challenged in this case? We know one, the court they're saying lacks personal jurisdiction over the defendant, right, based on the statute, and we're also saying that the jurisdiction over the defendant violates due process, and we're always going back to that fairness component that we consider. So, with respect to Encompass's argument regarding the plaintiff's residency, what kind of beef does Encompass have? So Encompass is trying everything they can to say, look, we don't want to have to come to Mississippi and defend ourselves, so they go after the plaintiff's residency. What do they say?
Right, so Encompass was an Iowa corporation anyways, and then you got World Insurance, that's a foreign corp who does some business in Mississippi, and these plaintiffs were residents of Mississippi at the time that it accrued, but at the time they brought the action, they're now residents of Florida.
Yeah, so that's a big deal. He's like, look, they weren't even residents when the claim was filed. You know, yes, when the claim accrued, but when you actually filed the case, they weren't even residents. So this is an important case because it shows you that, you know, the judge has to decide a very important legal question, which is whether or not you have to be a resident at the time it was filed, or if it can be at the time the cause of action accrued, right? So how does the plaintiff attorney Gross respond to the defendant's argument that, hey, you weren't even residents of Mississippi when the complaint was filed, so you can't sue under that long arm statute?
They basically just say that they were not residents at the time that they are now. The cause of action.
It's a very strong argument. Yeah, it's a horrible argument, right? So what is the court's response in terms of whether or not they're going to support the plaintiff or defendant? They give us a great rule of law, which is what Attorney Lamb about residency is determined when.
It's when it actually is filed as opposed to when it accrues.
Excellent. Okay, so it matters as a rule of law. Residency is determined when the action is filed, not when the cause of action accrues. So if we look back at those three prongs that Attorney Lamb mentioned earlier, do any of them apply, Attorney Gross, toward the contract or doing business prong?
The tort.
Okay, so they go after the tort prong to, again, attempt to establish personal jurisdiction. So what are the two torts that they're trying to establish jurisdiction under?
The tortious breach of contract and then the intentional or negligent infliction of legal distress.
Have y'all covered that in Court Case IID? Okay, when I was a law student, I thought that was the most bogus. I'm like, intentional infliction of emotional distress. I'm like, I can get a claim based on that if they intentionally did something to cause me emotional distress. Is anybody kind of surprised about that? I wonder why people don't try to use it in the terms of, I've not seen it used in terms of bullying. do an anonymous blog with them because you have a compelling argument. Did you say it? Oh, Elizabeth, so I'm giving you the credit. Yeah, but you can make a compelling argument in terms of the way that the grading process is. It's not the most efficient means of assessing someone's competency in that area. And so you could make the argument that it's just academic hazing. Like I hate the exam at the end of the semester. I think it's like the dumbest thing ever. So yes, you can make that argument, but alright, I kind of set myself up for that. So we know that they are trying to establish it under the tort prong, as Attorney Gross said. Tortious breach of contract and negligent or intentional infliction of emotional distress. How does the court, Attorney Lamb, analyze the tort prong? What do they say?
Right, so they decided now they have to move forward and figure out if any part of the tort actually happened in Mississippi. I mean, Congress provides this affidavit that says, we have no business here, no employees here, we have nothing here.
Excellent. And Attorney Gross, what do they say about where the actual tort occurred?
They said it happened in Iowa, not Mississippi.
Yeah, so this is not looking like a very good case here. Ultimately, the court in this case held that the defendant in Compass is not subject to personal jurisdiction, right, under the long-arm statute because, again, the actual injury occurred in Iowa, not Mississippi, and the plaintiff were considered residents of Florida for residency purposes because, again, residency is determined at the time the parties, based on where the parties are domiciled or living when the lawsuit is filed, okay, not when the cause of action accrues. And so, pretty straightforward case, but I wanted you to see, because the cases in the book are typically abbreviated, but I wanted you to see how what it looks like, meaning doing an analysis of being challenging a long-arm statute's applicability and vice versa. So any questions about long-arm statute, anything whatsoever? So if I test you tomorrow on this, everybody's going to get an A, right? Okay, I feel good about that. And like the ego part of me is like, I want to like dust my shoulder off and be like, yeah, you taught that, but I'm not going to do that. But I'm glad that you understand. So I can't believe it. We're actually done early, which has never happened this semester because it's a pretty easy section. So enjoy the 15-minute retrieval, and I will not be offended by Jessica's yes. And I will see you all tomorrow.
Sorry, I have things I
Yeah,
have
okay.
for the class.
You know what I was thinking about? You know, very our parents where he's like, Barry! Everybody's
The next one, I'll do it.
Barry! Contract!
For a living.
I'm happy to go with elsewhere. I gotta finish my argument.